are here at the AXA Training Centre after Arne Slot has just had his pre-match press conference ahead of the game against Leicester City. But spoiler alert, there were zero questions about Leicester City. All the questions were about Liverpool. Most of them were about Virgil van Dijk and the quality that he still possesses, potential longevity he has, and everything that he brings to this Liverpool side on and off the pitch. There were some questions about Trent Alexander-Arnold as well, and while Slot did not necessarily answer the contract side of it, he did reveal that Trent is back in training and is in contention to be in the squad for the game against Leicester. Reading between the lines, you get the impression that in Slot's ideal world, him and Bradley would share the minutes. Bradley is still back from injury not long himself and will probably not necessarily be ready to play 90 minutes as yet. There's plenty more that we went into, and I will divulge all of that in my press conference review coming soon on YouTube. Check it out.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the press conference review. As you can probably tell already, this one's slightly different. I should probably have to explain exactly why that is. A couple of days ago, I had to say goodbye to my previous laptop. It had just bit the dust. It was no longer doing what I needed it to do. I'm still waiting for delivery of the new one. So for this episode, we are going to be doing it via my phone. Now, for some of you who've been complaining about the sound issues, the vision issues, and just the technical side of it in general, if there are any issues that come off the back of this, I apologise in advance, but hopefully the words will maintain their position as the most important thing to concern yourselves with. And speaking of those words, let's get right to it. There was some training injury news as well as some contract news all tied up together in one. Now, normally I would do those two bits before we get into the top takeaways, but it all kind of feeds into itself. So let's start with top takeaway number one. Trent Alexander-Arnold is leaving, you guys. Now, I know that this is not hardly news for anybody, but I think you can almost tell that there was a slight hint of confirmation in the way that Arne Slot was answered the question that he was asked about Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, in his eyes, he will say, well, he answered it the same way he answers it every week. He says that he doesn't talk about the ones that aren't done. He only talks about the ones that are done, which is why he was able to talk about Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk over the last couple of weeks. But the reality is, he was given the opportunity to say that he wants Trent to see his future at Liverpool and to give some kind of an olive branch to the potential that he would be here beyond this season. Now, he didn't do that. Not only did he not do that, he then went on to talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold's career as a Liverpool player and how fantastic it had been, almost as if he was delivering a eulogy to his Liverpool career. And I think, again, it won't take many psychology experts to work out that the way that he's answering it, the refusal to kind of give any kind of future thoughts is really an admission of the fact that this is the end for Trent. I mean, there have been times earlier on in the season when he was answering questions about Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk when he was asked, would you like them to be here beyond the season? And he did say yes. Now, this time when he was asked about Trent Alexander-Arnold, he didn't even answer. He completely went the other way and talked about his commitment to the team for the rest of the season and his desire and drive to get back onto the pitch this season. There was nothing about the future. And as I say, this isn't news to anybody else. But for those of you out there who are still wanting there to be some kind of announcement and thinking that maybe now that those two have signed, there will be some kind of announcement, I still wouldn't expect anything official until after Liverpool's trophy or title win has been confirmed. But for now, that's as good as it's going to get. Top takeaway number two, Slot wants a new number 9. Now, he was asked about what he sees as the qualities that he would like in a number 9. And this was one of those moments in the press conference, which doesn't happen very often, where a journalist says something and I kind of look at them and bore my eyes into the back of his head as if to say, what are you doing? Because Slot answered, do you want the easy answer or do you want the difficult answer? And the journalist said, somewhere in between. No, We want the difficult answer. We want him to explain more detail exactly what he wants out of a number 9 option. So what he actually ended up doing was giving the easy answer, because you gave him the opportunity to give the easy answer when he gave you the opportunity to ask something a little bit more difficult. So anyway, the easy answer was he wants someone who works hard and scores goals. No shit. I don't think there's anybody out there who doesn't want those qualities in a number 9 or a winger or an attacking midfielder or even a centre-half, to be honest with you. So that didn't really tell us anything. However, it did kind of still tell us something, because if you look at the 3 options we've had so far this season at number 9, Darwin Núñez works hard, doesn't really score that many goals. Luis Diaz works hard, scores more goals, still not that consistent. Diogo Jota, consistent in patches, if that's even a thing, but can score goals and does work hard, but is he the best presser out there? No, he's not. So none of those 3 options pass even the most low, rudimental, easy answer bar, which tells you that he does want something new. He does need something new. What specifically he's looking for, which will lead us to who specifically he will be looking for, we'll have to wait and see, because unfortunately we didn't get the opportunity to find out today. But I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities between now and the end of the season to ask him that question. I almost dived in myself off the back of it, but I had my one question that I wanted to ask him already, and Tony Barrett was giving me those wrap it up eyes, so I knew that I wasn't going to get another chance, but the time will come, don't you worry. Top takeaway number 3, Virgil van Dijk is the most important man at this club. Now, there were plenty of questions about Virgil van Dijk over the course of this press conference because, like last week, he was the one who just signed his new contract. So there's lots of talk about what that means for the ambitions of the club, what it means for him as a player and his legacy, what makes him so special. And all of these things kind of tied in together as to why he is so important. But I think you saw glimpses of the way that Arne Slot talks about him, that he's someone who is, even he who's seen so much football, sees it as an exception. So when he's talking about ball possession, which is his favourite part of the game, and about how we all know about the big diagonal that Virgil plays, but he's really interested in the way he punches it into the midfield, and not only the timing of it, but how he does it that allows the midfielders to go on and make the moves that they need to make, and just those minute details and how important those things are to the way that he wants to play football. But then he revealed how important he's been to Ryan Gravenberch in his development, not only his development as a number 6, as you'd expect, because Virgil's probably the closest man to him if you're playing as a defensive midfielder, but his influence on him in terms of being able to handle the extended workload that he's had, because this is something that lots of people have been concerned about in recent weeks, how Ryan Gravenberch is going to be able to go from not playing very much over the course of his last season at Bayern Munich and his first season at Liverpool to playing every week. It looks like he's probably going to start 38 out of 38 Premier League games, and how he's been able to manage that in terms of his body, in terms of his recovery, in terms of maybe doing things slightly differently to what he was doing before. I mean, Slot kind of hinted around the edges of the fact that maybe he wasn't quite always as professional as he needed to be, maybe going to bed a bit too late, maybe eating the wrong things, those kind of things that young players often fall into the traps of. I know a lot of them like to play Call of Duty or FIFA till God knows when in the morning. So maybe doing less of that, maybe using his big brotherly influence to maybe say, no, this stuff is important. You need to look after yourself. We saw how much detail that Virgil goes into in terms of looking after his body, in terms of having his own fitness team, his own nutrition team, coming in on days off to do all those extra work, comparing himself to the likes of a LeBron James or someone else in other sports who have been playing at the top level for a long time, and they understand exactly what it takes. These are the things that I think are really important in terms of why he's so important. He's an influence on the tactics, he's an influence on his teammates, but I also think he's an influence on the transfer strategy as well, for 2 reasons. Number one, He's another one of these elite players that other prospective signings want to come in and play alongside. People want to be able to say, oh, what's Virgil really like? And how does it feel when you're playing alongside him? And just that assurance that he gives all of his teammates, that level that he lifts them, every football player wants to feel that. So they're going to want to come in and play alongside him. But also, in terms of working out exactly what else we need from these other players. If you've got someone like Virgil who can do so many fantastic things, maybe that means that you don't necessarily need someone else in multiple positions to do those things. For example, Liverpool are heavily linked with Dean Howson of Bournemouth, who has a lot of great qualities as a centre-back and has been very impressive this season, particularly with his passing and playing out of the back. Now, if you go back to what I said before, Arne Slot very much values that. One thing he's not great at, though, is aerial duels. He's not necessarily built up himself into be able to use the height that he has to be aerially dominant. Now, if you're playing alongside a Virgil van Dijk, maybe that's not quite as important. Maybe you can adapt and have a guy who's not necessarily as dominant if you've got this guy who is really dominant alongside him. Now, you can make the argument that Konate has also got very good numbers. You can say Quansah has got decent numbers as well as an aerial duelist. So it means that the whole cabal of centre-halves mean that you can afford to carry someone who's not quite there yet. But again, having Virgil alongside someone to learn from, maybe he'll be able to understand a little bit more about the dynamics of aerial duels. He's not necessarily going to get better just because he's young. Maybe he will get better because he's playing alongside one of the greatest of all time. We'll have to wait and see. But there is no doubt, whatever direction the future Liverpool Football Club takes in the short term and the medium term, and maybe the long term as well, Virgil van Dijk's fingerprints will certainly be all over it. As ever, I was lucky enough to ask a question myself to Arne Slot, and while I did want to go back to what he said about a number 9, I actually asked him something different about a certain wobble.
We've spoken over the course of the season about frustration and maybe people focusing on results rather than performances, but in recent weeks it feels like it's flipped a little bit, with lots of pundits talking about Liverpool's performances not being great, maybe calling it a bit of a wobble, but the reality is over the last 6 games you've actually gained 5 points on Arsenal at this crucial point of the season. Do you think that there's not been enough focus on Liverpool's resilience at this stage of the season?
That's difficult to judge because I don't follow everything what's being said. What I see is that indeed I think we've won 5 out of the last 6 games. And what I've seen is during the whole season, I've said this I think multiple times, the first 32 games we've played in the Premier League were apart from 3 or 4, they were all tough, but when you look at the results, I think we've won many games with 1 or 2 goals difference, and only 2 or 3 with more than 2 goals difference. So that tells you that it is a very good league we are in, and how hard it is to win a game of football. And I'm not bothered by opinions of pundits. That's where they are for. They need to have an opinion. And yes, we didn't play well the second half against West Ham. So if they tell we didn't play well the second half against West Ham, I have to totally agree with them. But let's look back at Wolves away. We didn't play well for 90 minutes. And that was the start of the season. So it's not the first time that we don't play well. Wolves at home, second half performance, not 1 shot on target. So I think you can look at it both ways. You can see it as a big compliment that you then are where you are in the league, where we are. Or you say it's not the team like City that was at halftime last season either 2-0 up, either 3-0 up, or 4-0 up. Yeah, that would be the next step for us. If that's still possible, because Pep says that isn't possible in the current Premier League anymore. But everyone is going to try to next season. He, Mikel, and me as well.
First of all, I have to give a shout out to Neil Atkinson for being the inspiration for this question. If you haven't seen the clip of him talking about the wobble on Sky Sports News, go out and check it out. It's all over the Anfield Wrap social, and it is definitely worth the watch. So, my whole point about this was, We've seen Arne Slot talk many times about how he favours looking at the performance over the results. Results are always a very short-term way of looking at football, whereas performance is a bit more medium to long-term. You can extrapolate it over a longer period of time over what you can expect to get. Results can fluctuate from time to time based on a certain bit of luck, maybe a referee's decision, maybe one player doing something spectacular, either good or bad. These are all kind of variables you get. The longer you extrapolate it over in terms of a performance, the more likely you'll be able to tell exactly what you're getting out of your team. And true to form, he did not stray from this. He clearly showed that he was more interested in the performance than the results, even when it goes in his direction. So he was happy to admit the fact that there were elements of the performance that he didn't like against West Ham. He was also talked about previous performances that didn't go well. In fact, both times home and away against Wolves got a shout out. Wolves at home in particular was rather similar to what we saw against West Ham in terms of a good first half that kind of disintegrated into the second. So these are all elements and parts where the performance hasn't been great. He didn't even mention the fact that Liverpool won all three of those games because that wasn't important. That wasn't really what he was talking about. He was talking about the fact that he is happy to acknowledge the fact that sometimes Liverpool don't play well and sometimes that's the most important thing. Not always, mind. The other thing that he stayed true to was the fact that he doesn't really care about outside opinions. And there are some managers who say they don't care what people say and what people think about them, and you know that they're not telling the truth. Hello, Mr. Postecoglou. But with Arne, you do suspect that he doesn't really spend a lot of his time researching what other people have said, and it's kind of become a little bit of a thing in journalism at the moment where someone says something about a team and then the manager is asked about what that person says and then that person's answer becomes the focus and then the person who originally said it is asked about that answer and it goes on and on and on in this kind of a feedback loop. Now, I try to avoid those kind of things, to be honest with you, but really my question was trying to get an answer about how he feels about how this period of Liverpool is going for two reasons. One, I do think it's important how he sees what's happening now and whether or not this is a period of time where he can start to make some decisions about players and about how things have gone. Or is it simply a case of we are at the business end of the season now, so I just want to see how my players deal with that harsh kind of pressure of being able to get over the line and winning big trophies, because that is important. And you do wonder whether the circumstances and the context of where we are now in terms of the Premier League title race supersedes the idea that this kind of performance isn't the kind of thing that he wants to see going forward. So these are all the kinds of answers that I wanted to get out of him. He did reference once again how difficult it is to win in this league and how most of the wins have been quite tight. And he did again reference that that's the next development for this team to be able to win bigger. That is clearly something that he wants. We saw it at the beginning of the season, the 2-0s that Liverpool were regularly getting, and means that they were able to get into a second half and maybe turn the motor down and maybe just concentrate on keeping the ball and not necessarily expending so much energy, and how important being able to do that more often would be to be able to still have that energy to press and to expend when it comes to the March, Aprils and Mays. And maybe if Liverpool are able to do more of the former, what we won't see next season is what we've seen over the course of the last few weeks in terms of Liverpool's performance. So these things all feed into each other. I wouldn't be surprised to see if Liverpool try to do a lot more of that next season. I mean, it's not easy to do. If you listen to Pep Guardiola, apparently, he says it's impossible to do because the league just doesn't allow you to win big week in, week out anymore. The slightly frustrating thing about this, though, is that I felt like he was going to answer more. He had more to say on this subject, but unfortunately, Tony Barrett wanted to wrap it up, as he sometimes does. So we'll have to wait until another occasion for him to give us exactly what he has to say about that. And that's all I have to say about this. Now, I'm trying to make this show a little bit quicker because, understandably, I'm doing things a little bit differently. I don't have all of the editing facilities available to me. So, anybody who's out there who may well have an idea about, well, maybe you could do this or maybe you could do that, blah, 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 I appreciate them all. but you're just going to have to bear with me for this week and maybe for next week. This is just how it's going to be. As I said at the top of the show, I hope that you concentrate on my words and rather than anything else around it, and you'll still enjoy what I'm giving you. It's time for me to do my announcements of where else you can find me. I am going to be doing the Late Challenge podcast every Monday from 5. We have our show on YouTube and then we have our second show on Patreon. We would love you to come and join us for both of those. I've got a new column for This is Anfield coming out in the next couple of weeks. I'm obviously going to be doing more stuff with the Anfield Wrap. You may well see me in and around the LFC TV over the course of the next few weeks as well. And for those of you of a Red persuasion who have already heard about the Red Weekender, a fantastic a whole weekend's worth of events being put together by the people from Boss Night involving the Anfield Wrap, Redmen TV, Kenny Dalglish, Rafa Benitez, Lightning Seeds, the Zootons, Jamie Webster, and a whole host of other fantastic artists and footballers. Well, you may well see me in and around it at certain points as well. I can't say too much as yet, but you might see me there. So, if you are interested in any of those things, go out and find the Red Weekender on social media. You'll be able to buy your tickets there. Or go and look on the Anfield Wrap or Redmen TV, who will be selling the tickets to their own events from their own social channels. So there we have it. That's another episode in the can. Not very many more of these to go this season. Hopefully, we'll be able to celebrate asking Arne Slot how it feels to win the Premier League title in the not too distant future. But for now, thanks for listening.